Her name is Linda Fippin. She will introduce herself, and I'm very happy to have her. Perfection is hard to find. But very, very pleased that you're going to talk with us about light pollution, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's it.
Okay.
Well,
So
light
I'm going to
pollution
switch.
is light, good, bad, and ugly. Light pollution is all bad and ugly.
Yeah, it is.
As you said, the title of this talk is Lighting, the Good, the Bad, the Ugly. So I'm just going to start with a real brief history of outdoor lighting in general. In humans, nighttime lighting is a recent development. For the vast majority of our lives, we didn't have any other, or as humans, we didn't have any other light other than what came from hearth fires. And that was a useful thing when people got hearth fires, because otherwise when it got dark at night, you couldn't do really much anything except go to bed, you know. But the hearth fire gave a chance to have a little bit of light, to work on your tools and talk to each other, and those are important to get. Probably the people got control of fire. You see widely varying estimates, but probably at least 125,000 years ago. So from then on, we had a little bit of light at night anyway. And it also was useful for torches in case the saber-toothed cat came up to the front of the cave. Then you could grab a branch out of the fire and wave it at the cat and chase him away. So it was a value from that. And also for cooking meat and other foods. And I think it's proposed that as people began cooking meat, they noticed that the oils and the fat that were rendered down gave off flames and light. So probably there was an early development of using these kinds of fats for producing some kind of light. And if you ever had the chance to see the cave drawings in France, which I've never seen other than pictures, but I'd love to see them. So these were deep in the caves and completely dark, of course. So they had to have some kind of light. And it looks as though they had both little fire pits and also some suggestion that there was some kind of a lamp used, maybe a piece of animal bone with some tallow in it or something like that burning. As agriculture developed and people started having towns and villages and eventually cities, and sometimes quite large cities, cities were not a pleasant place at night. I mean, if there's no light in a big city, and if you look at some of the big cities in Europe, like Paris and London, I mean, they had hundreds of thousands of people before there was any kind of outdoor lighting, really. And it was not safe, really, to go out at night, not only because you could get knocked over the head and robbed or assaulted, but if you think about the major modes of transport, which were horses, oxen, donkeys, you wanted to be real sure you could see where you put your feet. So, and also, without sanitation, there was, at best, open sewers. So again, not something you want to wander around in the dark. So candles started to be developed pretty early, certainly as early as the 1400s, and there were people that would actually have a little attendant to go around with a little lantern of some kind with a dim little candle light in it or something, which is better than nothing, but not a lot better. And then oil lamps in sort of more widespread use started to develop in the 1500s. Now they actually started in one form or another much earlier, as I said, possibly even early back in prehistory, but there are objects that we would recognize now as an oil lamp of some kind burning something like sesame oil or olive oil or some kind of oil as early as like 6,000 years ago, 6,000 BC, actually 8,000 years ago. But we started to have lamps then, and then they were pretty much what there was available until your question.
Yeah, the people who made the cave paintings, you don't know what they were burning, do you?
I don't, but I suspect it was probably something like animal fat, just because there wasn't. I don't think that was 40,000 years ago. I don't think they had any technology really to crush seeds for oils. Maybe, I don't know. So oil lamps persisted until really the 1700s, and in fact, they were burning, as I said, nut oils and beeswax, but also whale oil. Of course, it was the the beginning of the whaling industry, and it supported all these oil lamps all over the place. So even in the cities, they were using oil lamps as street lights, and there were cities that had rules, like if you had a house that faced the street, you had to put lamps and candles in the windows so that they would cast some light onto the streets. And they're also supposed to hang out lanterns of some kind outside their doors, but apparently it wasn't very well enforced. So gas lights started to be invented in the 1790s. This was usually, it's the most common way of doing it, is to heat coal under certain conditions, which produces flammable gases, which then could be transported through pipes and used to light the street lights, which meant somebody had to go around and light the street lights and then come back in the morning and put them out again. I also read something, this actually blew my mind. I had never heard of this before. Apparently in China, somewhere around, during our Dark Ages, so around about the year 400 or even before there, they were taking natural gas that they were getting from some kind of seeps from volcanic areas or something, and running it through bamboo tubing and using it for lighting and heating in their houses, which to me just seems like the most dangerous thing I could imagine to do, but they did. So the first commercial gaslighting of streets was in Baltimore. That's under a lot of criticism these days, but in 1817. There actually was apparently one street in Providence, Rhode Island that was preceded that, about 1803, but this was the real first commercial gas operation with a gas company and gas mains and supplying the city. And electric lights started to come about in the late 1800s after Edison, but even before Edison, there were arc lights that were being used in Europe, and they had their problems. They had a very harsh light. They didn't last very long, so they were eventually replaced by incandescent lights, and they were the standard for a very long time until they developed the modern lights that we see, the sodium vapor, which is the yellowish or orangish lights, street lights that you see, metal halide lights and mercury vapor lights. And now we've moved into having LEDs, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So here we have street lights, and what do we have as a result of this? Street lights and indoor lights as well. So we have this, which is, I know my inclination, or some people's inclination to see this, although I must say it doesn't project very well on this. It's prettier on my screen. It's like, oh, pretty lights, pretty sky, the nighttime skylights. Oh, how nice. But it's actually, when you really think about it, you see all this light, and where is it going? It's going up. Why do we need light that goes up? And you can see back here kind of where it's hazy, it's just like all this light is sort of bounced back off of this haze in the sky. And this is not a good thing. This is the essence of light pollution.
Which city is that?
I do not know. I pulled this photograph off of maybe Pixabay or...
I think it's Los Angeles.
I think it's Los Angeles.
You think so?
Yeah.
Could be.
In the center. Yeah.
Could be. I didn't recognize it, but it's a big city. You can see there's a lot of city lights. And if you look at this, I think you might have seen this picture somewhere before. This is a satellite composite. Obviously, the Earth is not dark everywhere all at the same time, but this was actually taken in about 2000. So I think it's probably even more widespread now. About the only places you don't see a lot of lights are in the jungles, deserts, tundra. So
North Korea.
I will show you North Korea. All right, here's North Korea. So here's Japan, and here's what looks like an island here. Anybody guess what that is?
South Korea.
South Korea. Well, this what looks like this, where it's sitting in a blank space here, where there's more ocean, that's actually North Korea. So they don't have a lot of, at least in 2000 they didn't have, I don't know if they have any more lights now, but it's very dark. So this just represents all of this light that's going upward into space and not being utilized, or being utilized in a way that's essentially very wasteful and has a lot of negative effects. So as I said, light has a dark side. It causes problems for humans, and I'll go over all of these. And these are the major ones: glare, light trespass, a false sense of security. And even though I've said, yes, it was nice to have lights in the city so you could be secure and safe in the city, but you can get a false sense of security from lights as well. Loss of experience of nature, as I said, wasted energy, and possibly some health effects.
What's the difference between glare and light trespass?
Well, I will tell you the difference when we get to it. All right, we'll start with that, actually. Okay, but just to put it kind of simply, so what is light pollution? Is there anybody, have all of you heard of light pollution before? Has anybody not heard of it before? Not talking about you astronomers? Okay. We sort of live this. I mean, we're in it all the time. But I was surprised. I gave this talk, or a version of this talk, to a women's group that I belong to, and probably about half of the people in the room, it's a smallish, sort of 15, 20 people, didn't know there was such a thing. All right, so it's light that shines outward and upward unnecessarily is one way to look at it. And also, it's in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and in the wrong amount. So glare. Don't glare at anybody. All right. All right. Well, this is the Toyota dealership that is on Parkside Drive, just east of Turkey Creek. And if any of you have driven down I-40 at night, you've probably encountered this. I've encountered it very unpleasantly. It's not, I don't know why they think they need these bright lights. I don't know whether they think that the people at 3 o'clock in the morning need to drive by there and say, hey, they have a lot of cars there, or whether they are concerned for security reasons, which I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me like, any law enforcement in the room, if I were a disgruntled employee and wanted to get back at Toyota, I'd crawl behind in between these things where it's very dark and shadowed if I were going to slash the tire or key the cars or something. So anyway, the problem with this is what happens when you encounter bright lights. Your pupils shrink down, and it takes them a while to get back up again. So if you drive by this, your eyes it takes a few seconds to drive by, your pupils are shrunk down, then you hit a more darkened area, you can't see very well. It's especially bad if you're of a certain age where you might have cataracts, because it's even worse if you have cataracts. You have all kinds of glare issues with cataracts. In fact, one of the tests that they do to determine whether your cataracts are bad enough to require surgery is to test your vision and then shine a bright light in your eye and then test it again. I had it done recently. I had 20/25 beforehand and 20/60 afterwards. So it really can decrease your ability to see. That's not so good if you're driving 70 miles an hour in that 55-mile-an-hour zone. So light trespass is what it sounds like. It's light trespassing on someone's property. This is a particularly glaring example of it. I suspect that what this is, do we have the glare bomb up here still?
No.
Okay. So is one of the big lights that you see out in the country, which is obviously not only lighting some area around the road, but it's like lighting up this entire property practically. And so this is an extreme example of it. A more common example is when your neighbor has a security light outside that shines in your window, or shines in your living room, your bedroom window, your living room window. I had that very problem. My next door neighbor has a 2-story house, and we have their high ceilings, so he has a deck on the second floor that's up off the ground, probably 15, 20 feet at least. And they had a security light that was on all night long, shining into my backyard. So, but since his wife is no longer there, he doesn't turn it on anymore. So I'm sorry for them, but I'm happy for the lack of light trespass. So, and it can also be like if you have a street light, if you're in the city and you have a street light right outside your house, it may be having light trespass into your house. So, false sense of security, as I said, we tend to think that light outside at night is always good. It's always helpful. It always keeps you safer. But depending upon how it's used, that may not be the case all the time. Okay, so this was an example that we used. Obviously a person standing here, and there's these very bright lights up here. They're scattering light in all directions. So if you were walking along this path toward this person, used to be shining in your eyes, and again, you get that problem with your pupils shrinking down so you don't see as well. But there's another issue. So this is the same place. That person's still there. Can you see him? Okay. The problem is that these lights are scattering light so much in different places, and they actually encourage these deep, dark shadows. They don't shed the light where they need to be in these dark shadow spots. The person is standing right here. So if you were walking along that path at night and somebody were wanting to leap out and grab you, they would hide in those bushes and you would never know they were there, even though there are bright lights there. Now, if these lights were properly shielded so that the light is coming down and not out and not at your eyes, then they would cast a lot of light down into those potentially shadowed areas, and so it would be safer. So it's not that they should have no lights. You should have better lights that do what you want them to do. The other thing about false sense of security is we had when we were working with Roane County to try to improve the lighting conditions there. One of the people that worked with us was a man that had a business and a kind of little construction facility, and he was having terrible problems with vandalism and graffiti, particularly graffiti on his walls. He turned his security lights out, and the vandalism and graffiti stopped because nobody wants to bring their own lights to graffiti your walls.
Linda, could you switch back and forth on those two? So we watch the fellow. You can see the fellow disappears, and you can see, look at the place where he's going to move to. The one Linda put in.
Right there?
Right, now switch to the next one. You see how he moves. You can still see it. You see how
You can see him if you know where to look.
You know where to look.
You
Yeah,
know where to look.
I couldn't see him at all until you pointed him out.
So.
You didn't notice him.
I thought he was going to be down right in this corner over here somewhere.
No.
If you flicker back and forth, you can see that.
Let's see that. He's fast. Okay. The other thing is something that we're very concerned with up here is the loss of experience of nature, in particular the night skies. Up until the advent of all this outdoor lighting, you could go out probably anywhere and see something like this. Maybe this is the Milky Way. It's not maybe going to be that bright anywhere. If you guys go to very dark skies, do you ever see anything that's quite this? I think this is a long exposure photograph. So
We could just barely see it here.
from here we can see it, but nothing like this. But people who live in cities, if you were growing up in a city, a big city, Los Angeles, New York, Dallas, whatever, you certainly would never see this. The only things you'd probably be able to see, you'd certainly be able to see the moon at night. You'd be able to see some of the planets, like Jupiter right now is very bright, and Saturn's up in the sky, but it's actually farther away, it's a little dim, so I don't think you could see Saturn from the city. And you could see maybe a few bright stars, Arcturus, Sirius, Vega, the big bright stars, but you could grow up your whole life in a city and never see anything like this. And it's not only just this. Like, if you have these really dark skies, you can see how many stars there really are. And I sometimes wonder how people picked out constellations. You look at these really dark sky pictures, and there's so many stars. I don't know how they ever picked out these little constellations.
I might remark that I can vividly remember when I was 16 years old, which was about 1956. I drove back and forth on the Blue Ridge Parkway quite a bit, and at night it was dark enough to literally see the Milky Way almost like that
Really?
picture. You couldn't resolve the individual stars, but of course that long ago it was away from any reasonable light pollution. And much later I was at observatories in ideal locations, and you see it, of
You see
course,
it like that.
but it's increasingly difficult.
Yeah, I don't know. When I was growing up, I used to spend a lot of time when my grandparents' sheep ranch, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere, in a place that was very hot in the summertime, in a house with no air conditioning. So we spent a lot of time outdoors at night, just sort of lying on the ground, looking up at the sky. It was pre-television too. So
Where was that?
it's in a place you've probably never heard of in California. It's in California.
Do you know where this picture was taken?
I do not. It's another one I pulled off of Pixabay or Unsplash.
my guess is higher elevation because of the
Conifers.
And notice that you clearly can see Altair and Terrazed on the left, and then way up in the right corner is Vega.
Thank you. Observate. Is that Vega up there? And this is what you're talking about is Altair?
Yeah, Altair and Terrazed.
Wow.
You can also say that it's fairly far to the south, at least as far south as we are, because you're seeing the center of the galaxy down there.
Yeah. So. But I think you may have seen this before. So I just, when we put this up, a lot of people say, what in the world is that? So the way this was done, if you go out and get these decorative balls that are like mirror finished decorative balls that have people at their gardens or other places. So this is actually a tripod and a camera sitting above it taking the photograph. And so it's looking kind of straight up here. This is the building that we're in right now, and this is the house over here. And you can see, you can actually see up in here, you can see a few stars. This is the Big Dipper here, right there. And somewhere out there is the North Star, so we know that's north. So again, as David said, this is picking up a lot of the light, the yellow from the sodium vapor lights. If you go out there and look, you're not going to see yellow. You will in a photograph because the way camera captures images versus how your eyes capture images. But you'll see it's kind of hazy, whitish, and just like no stars that you can see because they're just blurred out by this pollution. So we also have wasted energy. When you use lights that are, excessively bright or aimed in the wrong direction or leaking a lot of light out to the top, you're wasting a lot of energy. So that is something we don't know because energy costs money. And as I said, this is just kind of examples of what it means to waste energy in terms of light. So it does increase the cost. It increases the release of greenhouse gases from the electricity needed to produce the light. And if you have properly designed lighting, you can reduce the use and costs. And we're now moving into city street lights and to using LED lights. And Knoxville has just fairly recently completed its conversion from its probably both sodium vapor and mercury vapor lights to LED. Does anybody, I don't know how many of you are from Knoxville, any idea how many street lights there are in Knoxville? Anybody hazard a guess?
30,000. 30,000.
Oh, come on, I told you. Actually, there are 29,500 lights in Knoxville. And they finished the lights, and replaced them with LED, and it cost, I think the original estimate was about $17 million to do that. The last thing that I read said that they're probably going to come in under budget for that, and that seems like a miracle in and of itself. But even what they're expecting is that their electricity costs, not only the electricity costs, but the fact that LEDs, in addition to using less energy, are very long-lasting. So they require less frequent maintenance. They're going to save about $2 million a year. So the city will make its investment over the next 7 years or so. It says in early versions of the light, I was saying to David the other night, I said, if you had been an early adopter of these lights, you'd be getting lights that are not as good as the ones are now. The way that the lights are described is in temperature, and it has to do with the kind of light that they're producing. And originally they were putting what they call 5,000 Kelvin. Kelvin's a unit of measure of temperature. And those lights are bluish, and they were harsh, and they also have the problem, and maybe you've heard, why you shouldn't be looking at your tablet or your phone or the TV before bedtime, because blue light wakes you up. So these blue lights were disruptive to people's sleep-wake cycles. And the current ones, the ones that were installed in Knoxville, are actually 3,000 Kelvin lights, which are about the equivalent if you went to buy a soft white bulb, a regular incandescent bulb that's a soft white. So they're warmer and less problematic. So some health effects. Obviously, if you have light shining in from your neighbor, or a big street light, it could interfere with your sleep. And it can have effects on melatonin. Kind of these blue lights affect the melatonin, and that's what messes with your sleep cycle. There are some studies that suggest that there is some health risk from nighttime light exposure. I haven't looked at these recently. The ones that I looked at several years ago, there were correlations between some of these diseases and health problems related to people who were working the night shift. I haven't looked at those. I always, you just have to wonder when things are correlated, whether there's any causality to. There are lots of things that people who work the night shift, there are all kinds of other things that could be problems. Like they don't usually just work a night shift. They might work a couple days of night shift, then they work some day shifts, and then they go back to night shifts. And so there's all kinds of other things. But I don't know. I haven't done any updates on this. But at least there's some potential health risks that are being investigated.
Well, for sure, the depression, diabetes, and breast cancer are related to obesity.
Right, exactly. But I'm just thinking that I was thinking like people that work a night shift as a security guard or something, they're very isolated, they're all by themselves all the time. You eat because you're bored. There's all kinds of things. There are all kinds of confounding factors that could go into this. But there are people who are still looking at this.
But the UV, if you're using 6,000 degree LEDs, the UV up on that end is bad for your eyes.
Yeah, okay.
It's,
But they're not using 6,000, and they're using 3,000 now.
those trucks and cars that are running around now
With
use LEDs in that range. And they're all illegal, and they don't meet any standards of light shining on the road, because the light shines everywhere. You're supposed to shine the lights on the road.
All right, to go to a little bit more dark side is that there are other negative effects other than on humans, problems in the natural world. These are a few of them, there are others, but bird migration, you may have heard of sea turtle problems with losing hatchlings at night, and I'll talk about all of these in a little bit more detail. All right, so bird migration. I'm a birder. I like birds, and so I take quite a bit of interest in this. Is that lice have cause birds a lot of problems with their navigation. Birds navigate by a number of factors. In the daytime, they navigate by the sun, but also magnetic fields. And then at night, they use the moon and stars for navigation. And they're also attracted to light and to lighted buildings, to lighted communication towers, which sometimes leads to collisions with these structures and results in bird deaths. And there's some possibility that the light itself may interfere with their ability to use their magnetic field detection. We've seen this picture before. This is...
No.
Yeah. Okay, so when I look at this, if you look at where are the centers of population and the centers of a lot of light, a lot of them are on the coasts. They go up the major river valleys, they're around the lakes. And this is a problem for birds because...
Just as I've always suspected, I see that central Texas is almost as dark as North Korea.
South Montana. Most maps show Montana's pretty dark at night.
Yeah, this is it. This must be it up here, I guess, Montana.
Yeah.
This is like the desert in Nevada. Yeah, well...
And there's about 500 miles across the Kansas-Nebraska border where it's still the Great American Desert. There's nothing there.
Is
There are
that it?
250 miles between gas stations up there.
Well, the problem with this is these are the major bird migratory pathways. That they follow pretty much the same things: the coasts, the rivers, around the lakes, also up some mountain chains and stuff. So this is obviously a problem. So there are a lot of big cities that are along these paths, and a lot of what big cities have, they have skyscrapers. And what do they do with skyscrapers? They light them up at night. And this causes birds to get disoriented, fly around the buildings, crash into them. And so some of the cities, I think Toronto started it, that they started a movement to, during the spring and the fall migrations, to ask building owners to turn their dang lights off in the skyscrapers at night. And they had some success at doing it, I think partly because people coming to work got tired, or more than tired, about having to step over dead and dying birds around their buildings in the morning. So, and I know there's some, I know Cleveland does it, I think Cincinnati does it. There are other cities along these flyways that have agreed to, in the few weeks in the spring and the fall, to turn these lights out so that they're not such a hazard to birds. So, just to say that birds are attracted to light, I think you can tell from the date that this had something to do with 9/11. This was a commemoration that was done, and they had two very large kind of searchlights that went up into the sky as a representation of the towers. And what you see here, this isn't confetti, or it's not papers flying around. Those are all birds. And there's actually a video of this. I couldn't find my copy of the video, but if you see the video, you can see them swirling around there and cawing. They're good size. I think they're probably mostly gulls because they're close to the ocean there, but probably also a variety of other birds in there. So they are attracted to and disoriented by light.
You know, what flashes into my mind is to what extent birds are attracted to the light versus the insects are attracted to the light and the birds are attracted to the insects.
I would say that, except that I think, as I said, I think these are gulls. I don't think they're much insect eaters. I mean, they look, just looking at the size of them, this is taken a fair distance away, those are pretty good sized birds, so I don't think they're not like flycatchers, you know. So.
No bats.
All right, so as far as the number of birds that are killed by structure strikes, it's a wide, it's like a factor of 10 for the estimates. It's been like, who's counting, where are they counting, how are they counting? But even so, there's, even if you take the lowest estimates, it's millions of birds are killed every year by collision with these various structures. And it's not just light. I mean, light is certainly part of it. They sometimes crash into buildings, these buildings that have kind of mirror-like windows. They crash into them in the daytime. And also, if it's foggy, they sometimes get disoriented and get lost in the fog. You can't see things like particularly cell towers and communication towers. But light's certainly a major factor. So it has other effects on birds, like people. It can affect their sleep-wake cycle. I know mockingbirds you can hear at night pretty much any old time, but a lot of other birds that ordinarily only sing in the daytime in the breeding season, for example, you'll start hearing them at night because there's lights around and they think it's dawn. So that changes that. And it may cause some hormonal disturbances, again, possibly things like the hormones that manage their sleep-wake cycle. It may decrease their food supplies because some of the insects that they eat in the daytime are busy flying around lights at night, although some birds may actually take advantage of it and hang around the lights and chow down on the insects that are flying around the lights. But just overall, it's possibly a problem. And as far as predation, there are birds that kind of go to the dark corners of the trees and other places to avoid predators. And if there's more light, there are fewer of those dark places for them to hide. So moving on to sea turtles. So as you may know, that sea turtles bury their nests, their eggs in the sand, and at nighttime they hatch, generally at nighttime, and they're drawn to the sea by the reflection of stars and the moon on the sea. And if there's condos or a street behind them that have lights, they may wander in the wrong direction and never make it to the sea. So what other kind of things on other animals and plants? We talked a little bit about predator-prey relationships, about the insects gathering around lights, and predators that may ordinarily hunt in the daytime. Figure that's, well, I'll hit at night too, why not? It's plenty of light. And there's some evidence that, I think you all know that if you are growing plants and you put light on them, the amount of light during the day that they get affects how they grow. And there's some evidence that trees that are exposed are under street lights may get pretty much constant exposure to light, which may actually shorten their lifespan. So I've talked about all these bad things. So what can we do? Is there anything we can do at all? There are things that we can do at home as individuals, and that's to use well-designed light fixtures that are what we call full cutoff. In other words, they cut off light from spewing out in directions you don't want it to go. And I'll show you some examples of those. And if you, whatever fixture you use the lowest wattage that gets the effect that you need. Don't use, more is not better. If you have security lights, consider using motion detector lights. They're probably more effective anyway because, as I said, my neighbor had this light on that was on 20, it was on all night, and somebody could have been walking, there's only a pasture behind us, somebody could be walking in the yard, you'd never know because it doesn't catch anybody's attention. But it had a motion detector light out there, and that light flashes on, well, maybe one of us, he or me or somebody would see, oh, there's somebody back there. And you can always just, if you don't need the light, turn it off. So I went around my neighborhood. Okay, so my neighborhood has underground utilities, so we don't have any street lights, but a lot of the houses have brick mailboxes out in front, and they have light fixtures on top of them. And if you're driving into the neighborhood, especially if you're in an SUV or a pickup or a high-profile vehicle, these lights are just right about at eye level. So if they're really bright lights, they can have all these glare issues, and it makes it hard for you to see if your eyes are constricted, to see your neighbor's dog, their cat, their kid's bicycle on the street. So, but I went around my neighborhood and I took a picture of some of the light fixtures just to kind of give you some examples. So these are ones that are not so good. They're not well. One of them is kind of awful, but this is really not such a bad one. You can see it's closed at the top, so there's not a lot of light going out the top. There's still light going out the sides. The problem with this one, this is a huge, bright bulb, and it's just like, whoa. So you could improve this just by putting a lower wattage bulb in. It would still be as effective, really, to get to have a little bit of light around your mailbox, but without putting out everybody else's eyes. This one is just kind of a bad light all the way around. It's glass everywhere, so light goes out the top. It's kind of beveled. It scatters the light a lot, and these are little bulbs, but they're really bright. So that's one not so good. These are better. Again, this is one that has a good soft top on it that overlaps a little bit, and this particular guy has put these little lights in here. And I noticed he's got another one in here now that's kind of cylinder shaped. It must be some kind of an LED, but it flickers like a candle. These flicker like candles, and they're kind of reddish. They're red lights, so they're actually really pleasant. And they still cast quite a bit of light around the mailbox. These people are very clever. They've built this thing themselves. It's closed off completely at the top. These sort of frosted glass panes in it, and pretty low wattage bulbs. It still casts light around. It still has a nice light outside, but it's really not bad. All right, this is the best kind, although this is a little bit of a problem. This is my light, I must say. I had one of those brick mailboxes too until KUB needed to refit some of their pipes, and they found out that their lines went right under my mailbox. So I replaced the mailbox with a non-brick version, and then this is a light. This is a full cutoff light, and this is a hammered metal. I like the lamp, because I kind of like arts and crafts style stuff, but birds like it too, as you can see. I don't like this. I like the lamp, but this came with this kind of ugly post. But it's a good. I wouldn't necessarily buy this light again because of those things, but I really like. It's a good design. It's completely full cutoff. There's no escape of light out the sides. It only comes out kind of in a cone out the bottom. You can put quite a low wattage bulb in there, and it still casts a lot of light on the ground below it. So, and it's not to say that you need to go out and replace all your lights, with full cutoff lights. But as things break and need to be replaced, or you're remodeling, consider getting better lighting so that it's doesn't cause some of the problems that I've talked about. There are things you can do in your community. If you happen to be in a place that has a homeowners association, you can talk to them about, is there a lighting plan for your neighborhood? Can we do something to encourage better use of lighting and to encourage people not to use the brightest possible bulb in their lights if they don't really need it, and to favor motion detector lights over constant security lights. You can go and talk to city and county planning departments and to local and state government bodies about their plans for lighting as they have new developments. We did, David and I and several other people were active in this in Roane County several years ago because of the observatory being here in Roane County. We wanted to minimize the amount of light pollution, and we talked to somebody. Do you have any comments to say how we did on that, David?
Sure, I think it was effective in several ways. One with the college, because the students really took it to heart when they realized what the effects were on the environment and on the community. And it was effective for local people because they, some of them asked me, well, what kind of lighting, where can I buy? How can I build something? And at that time, there was not a lot around, but it helped them choose the better options. And it was effective in the community because they actually did pass some legislation for new construction in terms of the cutoff. Linda mentioned full cutoff. That just means one doesn't have light coming out along the horizontal plane, meeting people out to the side. And her fixture that you saw doesn't blind people. You can walk past it, you can see the ground. And I think people developed an appreciation for, well, if I want security, it's not more light shining everywhere. I don't want to shine it toward the street where the cops are driving by. They're not going to look at it. It's painful. But I put the light on my house, on my fence, on my front porch, and then my house is pretty. And I'm not blinding people on the street. So I think it was, as an educational thing, we had some action.
And I think
I might mention too that when I was an astronomer at Kitt Peak, Arizona, 40 years ago, the city of Tucson then was about 200,000, and it's now about 650,000. But the astronomers mobilized because we could easily see. We were 55 miles west of Tucson and about 130 miles south of Phoenix, and you could see the light pollution from both cities easily. And so we started appearing at public meetings and before the city governments and the state government, and made the case that Arizona is attracting worldwide attention because of the observatories being here. And this is something that needs to be fixed. And indeed, Tucson and Phoenix passed laws requiring the street lights have lids on them that direct the light downward, and it made a heck of a difference. And even though the population is 3 times larger now, it's remained better controlled than it was previously.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really effective, talking to people like county and city governments, and even local and state governments, cost. It's like if you have better lighting, it's costs less. So
Lower taxpayer.
it lowers the tax. It lowers the taxpayers' income.
How what's the impact though of the new LED billboards?
There's I didn't even go there. That's I personally think that they are a real distraction for driving, just because of, not so much even because of the light, just because it's constantly changing things that catches your eye and takes your attention away from the road.
I've seen some that were so bright that they were a problem
Really?
driving.
Really?
They were in your face and so bright.
Right, there's some of them are so bright that they're a danger to driving.
Yeah, billboard lighting's a problem in general because you see a billboard, not even just a regular billboard. They tend to have lights at the bottom that shine up on them, so that is light going upward. It would be better to have lights shining down, but it's more difficult to replace and to place and to replace lights at the top than it is lights at the bottom. So it's their inclination to do it that way. So it's a problem. I can always talk to your neighbors and don't start a neighborhood war over somebody's light, but I never did go talk to my neighbor who was shining his light in my yard. I didn't really know them that well, but
This happened to me in Washington D.C. and new people bought the house that adjoined my property right outside my bedroom, and so I was very nice and polite to them, and then I invited her to come over after dark and took her up and showed
You took your neighbor to your bedroom, is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, of course, my wife came to shepherd.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, she got the message right away, and they changed the light.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you had the resources and you wanted to be politic, and it's like, if you'd be willing to put up a motion detector light, I would help pay for it, something like that. But it just depends. It can always be, neighbors can be touchy. So if you want more information on all of this stuff, I can recommend the International Dark Sky Association. This is the website on darksky.org. They have tons of information if you want to see what kind of light fixtures. They have a whole section on light fixtures that they have got their stamp of approval. They have local groups. We don't have one here. We've been talking a little bit about starting one, but haven't really gone anywhere. There's one up in the Nashville area that they get together, and they probably are. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I imagine they're doing things like talking to planning commissions, local government, that sort of thing, to help manage or improve the light pollution. And they designate dark sky sites too. So there are ones of different degrees of darkness, and we have one quite close here, Pickett State Park, a couple hours up the road from Knoxville, is a designated dark sky area.
So we have another.
What? Obed. Oh, sorry. Obed got it. It's
No, and there's an effort underway to actually create a dark sky preserve or region, which would be Big South Fork, Obed, and Pickett
Wow.
combined.
That'd be great. Mm-hmm. So right in our area. Obviously, there are places that are better dark sky sites because we still, have enough cities around here that it's a little bit of a problem. But that's great. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they
Park
had.
rangers are promoting their astronomy nights
Mm-hmm.
at Obed and Big South Fork and things like that. So this is good.
Yeah.
That the park services,
Yeah.
at least at the lower levels, are in on.
All right. So they also have tons of ideas of how you can get involved if you want to get involved, or how you can take steps on your own to improve our position with lighting. And I think that's it. Any other questions?